brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking hosts, the good old boys. Suds, Suds, Suds. It's time for more Suds.
It is definitely time for more Suds. Welcome to the Suds episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. I'm one of your hosts here at the table, good old boy Mike. And joining me here at the table is good old boy Dave.
Hey, baby.
And good old gal Julieanna.
Hiya.
Our Sud segments are all about beer, and more beer, and today it's all about love. We're going to discuss several beers involving raspberry, but up first, Dave is going to get the honors of going over our Suds ratings for today.
We'll be tasting and discussing these beers and rating them using the Suds ratings plus our signature belching sounds. Here are those ratings now.
Negative, Dave. Take two.
Thank you. 1, that sucks. Give me anything but a bud.
Much better.
2, was that a belch? 3, what a relief. 4, a body should really not make that sound. And 5, listen to that hang time, give me another.
Excellent, Dave. Let me turn on the mood music here to talk about our episode for today.
Take it off.
That's right, baby. Take it off. Because today's beer episode is all about love and one beer style. We've picked one type of beer to talk about today, and this one is going to be beers with raspberries and all about some loving, but it's gone. So today, the beers we're going to talk about all have some form of raspberries in them and berry white. Wow. The beers we're going to discuss today are Founders Rubaeus, Founders Backstage Series number 11, Big Lushious, New Holland's Dragon's Milk with raspberry, Dark Horse raspberry, Rodenbach Caractère, Rogue, Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial, Firestone Walker's Bretta Rosé, and rounding out this group is Brew Rebellion, John Paul Jones, Stout White Chocolate Raspberry, and Partridge in a Pear Tree. Nice. Could you come up with a longer name and a hint of mint with a little whipped cream? Really great beers that we have to go through today. And I'm looking forward to our discussion about all these beers. So we have a lot of beer to talk about. So we're actually going to get right to it. So all of these beers, we've tasted them, and we're going to be rating them with our Suds ratings. Each of our hosts are going to go around and pick their top 3 and rating them with their Suds ratings, and we're going to slip in some loving along the way. Any volunteers to go first here?
For the beer or for the loving?
Dave, I would say that you're up first then.
All right, I'll go first. Fine. So my number 3, which is easily number 1 on a lot of lists, is the Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial.
Huh. Wow. How about that? Great choice.
So we first had this beer at Great American Beer Festival, and everybody was blown away by it. It's just a very clean, very light beer, kind of funky, hence the name Funkwerks. But it's a very easy beer to drink. The raspberry really comes out in it, and I thought it was just an outstanding beer. I gave it a 4.
Wow, how about that? A 4. A body should really not make that sound. Well, you definitely picked something with raspberry right from the get-go, which is good, Dave, since it's a raspberry-themed show.
That's right.
So, a couple of things about this beer. So, as we're going through these, I'm going to introduce these beers if I can find them here in our stack. So, you guys help me out with a page number or two while I'm fumbling around like an idiot. It is Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial. This is actually declared a Berliner Weiss. This is made by Funkwerks out of Fort Collins, Colorado. The ABV on this beer is 4.2%. So what else was in your lineup there, Dave?
So the second beer that I picked was the Firestone Walker Bretta Rosé.
Cool.
It's American Wild.
Yep. So this beer is part of the Barrelworks series from Firestone Walker. The only thing that I find really difficult with this beer is, they only ship it in a 375. So even the beer we had today, Firestone Walker Bretta Rosé from Firestone Walker is made in Paso Robles, California. The ABV on this is 5.3%. Dave, what were some of your tasting notes on this?
Well, it starts with the aroma. It's just very fruity and very vibrant, and it invites you in and makes you want to take a taste of it. It's very crisp, acidic, but it's very refreshing, very tart. And it finishes a little bit with
a pucker.
A little bit of pucker, yeah. Yeah, this is definitely, of the beers we tried today, this is what I would say the most sour.
Huh. Interesting.
And I gave this beer a 4 as well.
4 as well. How about that? I probably should really not make that sound. Well, two really great choices right out of the get-go. So what was your last one in your lineup there, Dave?
So the last one was the Rodenbach Caractère Rouge.
Wow, another great choice. So the Rodenbach makes these traditional beers, and they're well known for their Flemish red. And this is another beer in the Flemish Red series itself. The difference between this beer and some of the other Rodenbach traditional Flemish beer is this has been infused with fresh cherries, raspberries, and cranberries. Rodenbach is made in Belgium and is declared a sour red or brown. The ABV on this is 7%. Here's a quick description other than it's infused with cherries, raspberries, and cranberries. It's actually macerated in oak, and then the beer actually re-ferments in the bottle itself. So this is actually a new beer that's hitting the markets right now, at least in the U.S. And I don't know if they're going to make this again. So this may be a one-off series, but it is very widely available, and you can really find this in quite a few places. So what are your tasting notes on this beer?
Well, it's really complex. There's a lot going on with this beer. I think from, not so much from the malts, but the interplay of the different fruits, the barrel, the time it's spent in the barrel, and then just with the yeast that they use. So I think they really did a great job with this beer. It's really tart, but it's not sour per se. And I find as it opens up more and more and it warms, that there's a hint of honey sweetness that kind of comes out in the back. So I just find this beer very delicious and very drinkable. And I gave it a 5.
A 5? How about that? Listen to that hang time, give me another. Well, I think one of the things that I would say about the last beer is you've really got to enjoy, a Flemish, sour.
Yeah.
To really enjoy that beer. And I would say that it's a nice break from their traditional, Grand Cru style, red Flemish. And, I think for a really great brewery like Rodenbach to kind of break out and actually create something in a slightly different style than they're making, that shows you that they're looking, for some innovation, as well as some additional products that they can introduce in the marketplace and not be what I would call one hit wonder or one dimensional, type brewery. So I really applaud them for kind of stepping out and looking at some additional styles as well. Well, there we have one host in our top 3. It's time for some more lemon.
Never ever gonna quit. Quitting just ain't my stick. Gonna stay right here with you. Do all the things you want me to do. Oh, I'm never gonna give you up. I'm never ever gonna stop. All the things I feel about you.
All the things I feel about you and your Flemish sour.
That sounded just like Barry White.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, a really great start there. Julieanna, you'll be up next with your top 3. So, and is it really just your top 3? No, it's not. Of course not. She has like top 7 out of this lineup. Well, why don't you pick a beer to talk about?
Okay. So, in third place, I do not have 1. I do not have 2.
Sounds like
but
a beauty contest.
I do.
You know, in third place, the third runner-up is...
Everybody gets a trophy.
No, in third place, I have a 3-way tie, and there's a reason behind it, okay? It
third
is...
place, I have a 3-way tie. What part of that makes any sense whatsoever?
Well, you'll understand in a minute. Okay, so the Brew Rebellion, the Dragon's Milk, and the Big Lushious are all my top 3, and I'm rating them a 3. However, that being said, the reason why I'm making this a 3-way tie is, okay, we have a lot of lovers of beer, of craft beer, that listen to us, as well as the fact that we're big craft beer lovers. We wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be doing the show otherwise. What I really enjoyed about these beers is that you're getting almost a girl version of each of these, with the exception of the Brew Rebellion. The thing I liked about the Brew Rebellion is that it tastes exactly what it says on the label, which is...
I can read the description here for everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this beer is from a brewery called Brew Rebellion. It is declared as an imperial stout. The name of the beer is Brew Rebellion John Paul Jones Stout, white chocolate, raspberry, mint, and a hint of whipped cream.
And a
I'm
cherry
sorry, a
on
little
top.
embellishment there.
Yes.
So this beer truly has just about everything in it. But you said that the reason why you like this is because it has everything it's declared on the label.
Well, exactly. You know, what can be frustrating sometimes is when a beer doesn't quite make the mark of what's on the label.
I forgot to mention the ABV is 10.9%. Oh, yeah. You're getting down with this, baby.
I am. And not just because, you know, I'm a fan of John Paul Jones and Led Zeppelin, but the fact that I'm tasting the white chocolate, I'm tasting the raspberry, and I'm tasting a big stout. So it's exactly what I've asked for. It's why I bought, you know, it's why one would buy the bottle, and you're getting exactly what you're paying for. So yay to that. Okay, number 2 and number 3.
And your Suds rating was 3.
Yeah.
Right? What a relief.
Okay.
On to
the Dragon's
third runner-up, number 2.
3B. That was 3A. Now we're at 3B.
I'm going to enjoy this. This is good.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so 3B is the Dragon's Milk. Okay?
With
Reserve.
raspberry.
With raspberry. So, there is a cult following of those that love Dragon's Milk. You know who you are, and you know you wait in line for it. Okay, that being said, I'm sure there is a girlfriend in your life, a significant other, a wife. This beer would be her favorite. So for those of you that, you know, like the big stouts, this is nice because it's a little bit sweeter. It's got that raspberry flavor. And for girls that might be kind of scared off of a big fat beer, this one will envelope you and make you feel all happy.
And your Suds rating for this is a 3 as well.
Exactly.
Well, I don't mind chiming in and saying this was absolutely the dead bottom for me. So, a stark contrast, you know. In fact, I actually wrote down this was a bad stout with raspberry. I wrote this down. I mean, I'm sorry. My Suds rating actually was 2, you know, on this. I don't know. I just felt like the beer got lost somewhere along the way. It was like they were so concentrated on how much raspberry to infuse, they forgot to make a really good stout. to go with this. And I agree with you. Dragon's Milk is a very popular imperial stout. So it's it's definitely something that you want to always take a look at. Is that measure of following that you have. At the same time, you want to honor what people are looking for and what they enjoy, but at the same time, if you're going to add something to it, make sure it's not taking away from what people were looking there to begin with. So
Sure. But I think for those that like the Dragon's Milk, they'll appreciate, they have to hunt for it a bit, but it's there. And then the last, it's number 3, part C, would be the Big Luscious.
Big Luscious.
Right, which is by Founders. And Founders makes a wonderful, wonderful breakfast stout that is, again, a cult following by many. So if you were to take out the coffee and put in the raspberry, you would come up with this beer. And I think for every guy out there that loves the breakfast stout, his significant other would really enjoy the girly version.
So this beer is made by Founders Brewing Company. It's the correct name is Founders Backstage Series Number 11, Big Luscious. It is declared an imperial stout. The ABV on this is 7.8%. And the brewer's description is, Big Luscious is a deep, rich stout that's packed with flavor, roasted malts, all-natural dark chocolate, a subtle suggestion of burnt coffee grounds, and a kiss of tart raspberry. So, I think a lot of people were speculating that this is actually a blended beer of Rubaeus and the breakfast stout, or Founders makes several stouts.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were speculating that this is really just a blended beer, that they actually don't make it, straight up like this in one batch. But I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Is that really the case here? Do you feel this is something blended or something that people actually just make?
I think this might be something that they make because I've tasted the breakfast stout before, and it's very coffee forward. I don't taste any coffee roastiness in it. Now, granted, there's a lot of raspberry, but I think that the sharpness of the coffee would still be there, and I don't taste that at all. I mean, maybe that's just me. I've also tasted the Rubaeus right after tasting the Big Luscious, and the raspberry flavor is slightly different. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I love the way you described it as his and hers version of the way of, enjoying these beers as well. That, the guys are definitely going to like breakfast stout, and they may not like the raspberry, but, definitely having, both these alongside each other. So I wanted to chime in about this one in just a second. So you keep going with your number 2 pick.
Okay.
Is there just one number 2?
Yeah. There's only a couple of beers left, so.
All right. Switch number 2 pick, Julianna.
Okay. So my number 2 pick happens to be by Founders as well, and it's the Rubaeus.
Huh. How about that? These are definitely both these beers. So I talked a little bit about some of the speculation that, this beer was actually blended with Rubaeus. So, this beer is also from Founders out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The declared styles of fruit beer are Radler. I think it's closer to a Radler, if I had to say. The ABV on this is 5.7%. Here's a bit of the description from Founders. Not another boring summer wheat beer or lemonade shandy. Rubaeus is Founders' way to celebrate the season's warmest months, optimizing the flavor of fresh raspberries added at multiple stages during fermentation. This stunning berry red masterpiece is a perfect balance of sweet and tart. No question about it. It's a healthy malt bill at 5.7% ABV. So a really great... this kind of shakes up a lot of choices, kind of in that space. Because I don't know anybody else has anything that's quite like this, on the market as well. It definitely has a lot of raspberry.
It does. And this is something that I think a lot of girls would enjoy. I know I'm a girl, but in the scheme of things, some girls are afraid of trying something with flavor, and this is a great summer beer. And like I was telling you before we started taping, this is something I could see the girls at the Iroquois
Which
in
is
the summer.
It's a steeplechase, a horse race that's hosted in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's a big springtime event, much like the Kentucky Derby. It's hosted in Nashville, Tennessee, and
Lots of big hats.
lots of beer.
Yeah, well, the
Lots of
girls
good
are
times,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the girls are dressed in their finest, and if you want to do something a little different than a mint julep, then try this.
Personally, I would stick with the Mount Julep.
But you know what I mean.
Mint Julep. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
not Mount Julep.
And this one I give a 4.
A 4. Wow, how about that? Well, so we have those part of Julieanna's lineup here. We're going to take a quick segment break. We'll be right back. We'll pick up with Julieanna as well as some more lovin'. Oh, yeah.
Just to hold you in my arms. And it's exactly like I thought it would be. Me loving you, and you loving me. Oh, so
Welcome back to Sip, Suds, and Smokes. It's the Love Hour here on this episode. Love is in the air. So, today we're talking about several beers that have been infused with raspberry, and we are going through our top 3 picks. And Julieanna's gone through a couple of hers, and now we're going to get to her number 1 choice.
Yes.
What's your number 1 love
Okay.
there, Julieanna?
My
Me?
number...
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the wrong button there, Dave.
No, actually, that's the right button.
Ow.
No, my favorite beer of this flight is by far the Raspberry Provincial.
Of course. That's definitely a great beer.
And part of it is, okay, so we all were lucky enough to go to GABF this past October, and I remember looking through the lists, like, so the last day of the event, for those that have never been there, is the award ceremony. And if you get onto if you go to the convention early enough, you actually get a sheet which lists, how everyone did: first place, second place, third place. So if you don't go to the award ceremony, you can get to try, like, pretty much without a big line, and try everything.
Yep. That was our strategy. We're going to stick with it.
Yeah, no, totally. And so when I saw the Raspberry Provincial and then it placed first, I was like, oh my God, this is great. We got to go over there. And we tried it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely amazing. So then the day after the festival, Dave and I took the last part of our road trip up to Fort Collins, and we did a couple of brewery tours, and we went to Funkwerks, and we wanted to buy a bottle to take home. But no, alas, there was no bottle. We were very sad. So then I think we went to 3 other places to find a bottle. Finally, the last place that we went to, while Denver was playing, because of course this was a Sunday, and the man behind the counter is an avid Denver fan and was watching the game, we were perusing the refrigerated section. And we see some Funkwerks, but we don't see what we're looking for. And we asked the guy, and he's like, nah, it's gone. GABF was announced, and people came in, and it's all over. We were so sad. But we still were looking around. And we were looking and looking. And we found a bottle of one of the regular...
The regular Provincial.
Yeah, the regular Provincial. We pulled that out to get that to take home, and then, wait, not 1, but what? Could there be 2? Oh my God! So, anyways, for the amount of effort that we made to get this beer, I'm so happy to have it here, and I seriously cannot get enough of this. This is my 5. This is my beauty.
Listen to that hang time. Give me another. And you're right. A really great beer. And yeah, I think that would be one of the things that might be a little more difficult with this beer is finding it.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it's a declared Berliner Weiss, I don't know how much of this they made, and I've not heard about another another batch that maybe have been made, since then.
Yeah.
But I think that at least I'm noticing with some of the other beers that have meddled in the past that 6-month window, after they have metal, they're like, oh, I had a winning formula. I'm going to go back and make another batch.
Sure.
To cash in on that. So I suspect that if you can find Funkwerks in your market, then you definitely want to seek this out. Did you guys taste the regular Provincial that day by any chance?
Yes, we did.
We've had it. Yeah.
So is this really have a huge raspberry presentation over the regular Provincial? I don't know if you can remember, between the two. So
it does. I mean, the thing is that the Provincial is a really great Berliner Weiss. Just very traditional and very dry. This is just enough raspberry. And what I'm wondering is maybe they're waiting for that raspberry crop. Because to me it's a very organic raspberry flavor as opposed to, I hate to say it, but the big Lushious, for as great as that raspberry is, it tastes a little artificial to me in comparison to this. So, maybe they're waiting for a really good crop to make this again.
Huh. Well, definitely some great beers, and so thanks for going through your picks there, Julieanna. So, beer and love. Love and beer. I can actually blame about the vast majority of stupid decisions on the proximity of beer and love. So I got to thinking, I'm like, so while we're in the middle of talking about these beers and love, we should talk about some of the stupidest things that we've seen involving beer and love. So, Dave, how about it for you? What's some of the stupidest things that you've seen involving beer and love?
Well, probably the dumbest would be maybe the Trojan War. No, I'm just kidding. I was probably more mead and love.
I agree, yes.
But more personally, I had a friend in college. We went out drinking one night, and he decided he was going to surprise his girlfriend by getting her name tattooed on him. And so a few days later, he surprised her with her name tattooed on him, and she surprised him by telling him that she was breaking up with him. So, there you go.
Oh, man, I totally love that. So, that's cool. See, I thought you were going to go and say, well, he spelled it wrong. Or, it was like Anne-Marie, and she's like, no, it's 2 words. It's Anne-Marie, or something like that.
Who the hell's Anne-Marie?
Yeah, right.
My name's Amber.
I said put my girlfriend's name on it, not the tattoo artist girlfriend's name, my girlfriend's name. So, wow, gotta love that. So, how did he fix it? Did he just go back and go, hey, man, can you just put a big strike right through it? Or just put the word, some horrible name next to it?
I think he put
the B word right next to it.
A 4-letter word starting with F right above it. So.
And they never reconciled that,
That was it. Wow.
Wow. There you have it, folks. Beer and love and tattoos. That's definitely not a good combination in any shape or form.
Love may not be permanent, but tattoos are.
So you don't know the type of beer that was involved in that cycle of events.
If it was college, it was probably Red Dog or Something Stella, maybe if we were lucky with some Stella.
That would be upscale, I would say. You know, for the measure of stupidity in that, I'm thinking it was a Hallmark InBev product.
Ice House, some one of those.
That's what I'm thinking. You know, a malt liquor. Yeah, definitely of some kind. Colt 45, baby.
Yeah,
put her name right there. Well, it's a great story. All right, Julieanna, you're up next. What story do you have involving beer and love and stupidity? Not in that order.
It was all of that. And sadly, it happened to me. So,
is that where you got that tattoo?
Yeah. No. This did not involve inking. No, but this did involve a hockey game. So, I grew up in the Northeast, and I lived for a while in Buffalo, and I played hockey and been like a hockey fan, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. So I had an opportunity to go to Toronto to watch the Maple Leafs, which that in itself is hard to get a ticket. They were playing against the New York Islanders, and I had a friend of a friend who was on the Islanders' back office, and I, at the time, was in love with Pierre Turgeon. Absolutely in love with this guy. I just thought
She says that with a measure of swooning.
I know.
I've never seen it in her.
I'm not sure she's gotten over him.
Turgeon.
Yes. Exactly.
Pierre.
Exactly.
So hit the puck.
Okay. So a friend and myself, we were going to meet him after the game, and I was so excited. And it was my first time because I just moved.
Is the word slapshot involved in the story at all?
No.
Okay.
However, Molson Triple X is involved in this story.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah. So I'm nervous, and I'm drinking, and it was my first time having Molson Triple X. And I didn't realize the ABV on Molson Triple X. Duh, I should have. However, okay.
Why are there 3 X's on this?
Exactly.
It's because we lose it in Canada.
Okay. I got flippin' sloshed. My friend had to help me to the locker room, So we're waiting for him patiently, and I'm all excited, and I'm nervous, and I'm like, what the heck do I say to him? And oh my God, this is so cool. And I've got my jersey for him to autograph. And then I meet him. And then what does a girl that's had too much beer do?
You threw up.
On his brand new shoes.
Really good. I like that. I have to say, Dave's story definitely had, the fact that he took himself out of the equation. Yeah. That's props. I mean, that's like planning ahead. You decided to go for a personal story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Needless to say, though, besides him being sort of, grossed out by my little act, he did sign my jersey.
Way to barf on me, babe. Always yours, Pierre.
How do you say puke in French?
Well, yuck.
Yeah. There's that.
Wow. Oh, well. I'm just disappointed you don't have pictures. But anyway. Well, the story I had involving beer and love is definitely, weddings tend to bring out a lot of people that don't drink on a routine basis, and it brings out the grand stupidity, on a scale that you don't always get to see, So any of those shows where they show, America's, videos and, all these outtakes and stuff, it's always the weddings ones where people are doing absolutely some of the stupidest stuff on a routine basis. And they're not the normal idiots. There's like normal idiots. These are people that are going, watch me jump off the roof and land on something. Those are like normal idiots. I'm talking about Uncle Bob, Aunt Louisa, getting hammered, that they do like once every 5 years kind of thing.
Go out and do the chicken dance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're going to get it on. So at this particular wedding, let's just say that these folks were part of the Southern heritage, and so they decided at their reception what they were going to do is they were going to all have a common toast, very common thing, and so they had arranged for the same tree of champagne glasses that's kind of stacked up in a cascading pyramid. So one of the groomsmen gets up and so one groomsman is holding this keg of beer up on his shoulder, a half keg, a corny keg, and the other guy has the hose, just like you would find at a frat party, and they were standing on top of this table, and they were pouring Busch beer down this cascade of these glasses, and it's just it's starting to flow and stuff, and all of a sudden, it's just the whole thing starts rocking, back and forth just a little bit because the keg is heavy, and they're standing like about 8 feet in the air trying to pull off this acrobatic move, and I'm like, wow, I'm betting $50 that one of the bridesmaids gets hosed in the middle of this, somehow, some way. Well, I have to say that they actually pulled it off. There was Busch beer everywhere. It was in the glasses. It was on the table. It was on the floor. It was all on the kids that were, they were like, cool, puddles, let's go jump in it, and stuff. They're like, come on, Grandma, let's jump in the puddles of beer. And it just reeked in that room. And I was like, oh man, this is, truly a proud moment for this family. And, they ended up pulling off the glasses, and you would think that there would be a really good punchline here, where all the glasses fall on Grandma, or there's a tattoo artist in this story, but there isn't. It's just this picture of these guys with this corny keg suspended 8 feet in the air, pouring Busch beer down a cascade of glasses was absolutely probably one of the stupidest things, that I'd seen.
Wow.
And what's really sad is that they actually planned the whole event and thought about it in advance.
Oh, wow.
And I keep on thinking about how did that conversation go down? It's like they're sitting on the couch, about 3 months before the wedding, and they're going, hey, Mark, I got the best idea. You don't like champagne, so what we're going to do is we're going to be stacking a whole thing of glasses, and we're going to be pouring Busch beer. High quality Busch beer down the side of this thing.
What would be
it's going to look so cool.
Yeah.
Lisa's going to love it, man. She's just going to think she's going to be in love with you. She's just going to look at this whole thing and all that beer flowing down, and all our family's going, yeah, that's classy. I like that. And they're like, I don't know. Hand me 3 or 4 more beers until this idea actually sounds good enough. So it's just, Anyway, definitely some of the crazier things that I've seen done with beer and love, for sure.
That's awesome.
Well, I think it's about time for us to take another quick break here, and we're going to come back. We're going to listen to some more love music, and then we're going to hear all about good old boy Mike's top 3 picks as well. We'll be right back.
I'm never ever gonna quit, 'cause quitting just ain't pop stick. Gonna stay right here with you, do all the things you want me to do. Oh, I'm never gonna give you up, I'm never ever gonna stop. All the things I feel about you.
Hey, you didn't get lost on that radio dial. You're back at Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Love is in the air. We're talking all about raspberry beers today on this episode of Sips, Suds, and Smokes. On this Suds segment, we're going through a series of beers and our top 3 picks, and along the way we're having some fun. So we're down to good old boy Mike and my top 3 picks here, and I have a comment on a 4th one, so how about that?
Ooh, almost like me.
Yeah, you guys have actually talked about all these beers, so this should go pretty quick. So, I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was the Rubaeus. So the founder's Rubaeus. The tasting notes I had around this was that I thought that sweet was the thing I wrote down twice. I wrote down it was sweet forward, and it had a sweet finish on it. And I thought that it was actually doing the aspect of sweetness in a raspberry justice. And I actually, I thought this beer kind of stood out, in this particular lineup, just because how sweet it was. We had a lot of things that I would consider probably more tart or sour. This is probably moves towards that space of sweet. I loved your description of saying this is a good chick beer. And I think Radlers in general tend to have, several aspects of that. The fact that this is actually 5.7% alcohol is a little bit heavy for what I would say a traditional Radler. I think most of the other Radlers I know are probably around 4, maybe like 3.8, maybe even lower than that, where they really tend to concentrate on flavor than really the presentation of, the alcohol, that's really present in it as well. So, but I did think it was a good beer. It is not in my top 3, but I did want to talk about it. I gave this a 3, a Suds rating of 3. What a relief. And I'm glad it was in this lineup. My number 3 pick was one of the same things that you guys have already talked about, which is the other Founders beer, which is the Backstage Series number 11, Big Lushious. And don't make the mistake of spelling Luscious the way that it should be spelled. So this is Lushious, Lush, IOUS. So a lot of people, when I was talking about it, they were like, "Oh, you spelled it wrong." And I'm like, "I didn't spell it wrong."
Founder spelled it wrong.
So I don't know. Maybe that was Bubba's Day in the back going, "Hey man, I spell Luscious, Lush, IOUS." Put it on the label. I guess the thing about this beer is I really thought that it was doing a good job of presenting everything that was on the label, much like the way that you were describing the John Paul Jones, kitchen sink in a glass. I really thought that this beer was doing a good job of presenting a lot of things, even though they were independent. I thought that they were blending very well together. So, I wrote down that it had a sweet raspberry kind of start on it. There was a lot of chocolate there. But if I had to say that if I had to pick a Valentine's Day in a glass, this would be it. This had everything there that you are looking for, at least with these flavor profiles. The stout elements were there, and the chocolate was more on the sweet side. It wasn't really more on the cocoa, bitter nibs, kind of element side of the equation. And I thought the raspberry was very well balanced with this. I still don't know if this is blended or made. I'm not really quite sure. No, it really isn't. And I have a lot of respect for great blended beers.
Yes.
I mean, we've had some really fabulous, blended beers, on the show. So I definitely would say don't pass this up. My Suds rating for this is also a 3. I forgot to mention in advance, I am not a fan of raspberry. So it was a little difficult for me to kind of get through, some of these and go, oh, yeah, I really love raspberry. I can't wait for the next one. Maybe next time I'm in a beer judging contest, I'm going to go, yep, vegetal, no. Raspberry, no. So fruit beer, no. So
only the chili beers for Mike.
No, absolutely not. No chili beers. Absolutely. I'm going to protest the next beer judge. I have to do that. All right. My number 2 pick is going to be the Firestone Walker Bretta Rosé.
Yeah.
It's a really great beer. The tasting notes I had around this were, it just had the right raspberry tart. I don't know how to explain what that is. That I think that there are a lot of things that you could just have any tart element to it, like a lemon tart or a strawberry tart. I guess to me, when I was having this, I was like, well, that's the right tart for a raspberry. That's really when you think about a raspberry. That's kind of the way that it really should taste. So there's an element of balance between sweetness and tartness, but there's a certain style of tartness that you're going after here as well. I love the Barrelworks series from Firestone Walker. They're really making a lot of innovative things in the entire line through the Barrelworks series. I'm really glad we had this today. my Suds rating for the Bretta Rosé from Firestone Walker is a 4. A body should really not make that sound. So the last beer that we have to talk about. Hang on a second. Let me turn the lights down low here.
Getting them.
This night.
Now that you're all warmed up, it's time to talk about good old boy Mike's number 1 pick in the raspberry lineup here. All right, so I picked the Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial.
Nice.
How about that? A big surprise there as well. So my tasting notes around the Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial is that it's smooth, it's balanced, it's tart, it's sweet. It's actually just the right amount of raspberry. So, you know, I love good Berliner Weiss. Berliner Weiss is one of those things that it's so simple, I think you could actually screw it up so easily.
Oh, sure.
And actually, because we don't actually enjoy Berliner Weiss as you would traditionally in Belgium with a fruit compote, usually is what it's blended with, right there at the table. So I love the fact that we have a style of Berliner Weisses that are being made that actually are flavor infused. And that's what I really like about this beer is it's a really good Berliner Weiss that happens to have really good elements of raspberry in it. And the raspberry is not overpowering the traditional Berliner Weiss in it as well. And so it's just this really great, wonderful harmony going on. I would say that this particular beer is what I would describe as a full-blown sour. So I would say if somebody doesn't like traditional sour beers, which Berliner Weiss is a traditional sour beer, then I would say if you're looking for something that's that sweet chocolate, kind of experience, go for the Big Lushious. I think if you want a very well-made beer, and you're a bit of a connoisseur about enjoying sour beers, don't pass up the opportunity. If you see this on a shelf, should grab a bottle of this. I really don't know how easily I could, talk that up, because don't let this kind of drift by. Pick something well to go with it. This does not have any chocolate element to it at all. I would say this is a really good beer to pair with with something else that may have some chocolate in it. So, just a really fabulous beer from Funkwerks Raspberry Provincial. My Suds rating is 5 for this.
Nice.
And this is one of those 2 fabulous bottles that Julieanna and Dave found that day. So I'm really glad that we got to enjoy it here on this particular episode. So, guys at Funkwerks, if you have any left over, send another bottle on over so we can enjoy it.
Send 2.
Well, we've had a great time talking about a lot of great beers, and there are a couple beers that we haven't talked about, and I don't want to pass up the opportunity to just kind of chat about a couple of these. So the one beer we didn't talk about that I know of is we didn't talk about the Dark Horse beer. So what did you guys think about this? And it didn't make any of our top 3 at all.
I don't know. There was something off in the flavor. I didn't really get raspberry. It almost had sort of a hay kind of flavor. I don't know if it was a sort of a vegetative thing or something, but I didn't really like it that much.
What was your Suds rating?
I gave it a 2.
A 2, which is, was that a belch? Some of my tasting notes on this were, the first thing I wrote down and I actually said it out loud is this a raspberry cider? And I think there was a bitterness in the beer as well. It definitely, I don't know what they were aiming for, but it definitely didn't work, at least in this lineup, for sure. I just, was, even if they were going for a raspberry cider, I didn't enjoy it very much. I gave this a 2 as well. Was that a belch? Julieanna, what do you think about the Dark Horse Raspberry?
Yeah, I have the same opinion, echoing from both of you. It was, the color was off. The color was very
pale,
blonde in the scheme of things. So I'm wondering, did they not add enough raspberries? Did they feel like they, wanted to be subtle about it? But at the same time, I don't even know what that base is. You know what I mean? Is that a wheat beer gone awry? Is that a pale? I don't know. I'm just really confused about that beer a lot. And I gave it a 2 myself just because I couldn't put a handle on what it was I was really tasting. But vegetative, that's a really good word because I really feel that there was something funky going on.
Well, I don't think I chimed in when we talked about the Brew Rebellion, John Paul Jones, stout, white chocolate, raspberry.
With mint,
and whipped cream. This beer just did not do it for me. I think what the thing that was missing for me is, where was the white chocolate? It just really tasted like a bit of a tart stout.
Really?
I don't know. It tasted like kind of a mess on the palate. I don't know if I was just kept on reading, the description, and I was waiting for everything else, but no, it didn't do it for me. My Suds rating for that was a 2 as well. But a lot of other great beers from Brewer Rebellion, but this one just didn't strike me as something that I really enjoyed as well. Any other beers that you guys wanted to chat about?
I think thanks to Julieanna's top 6,
we've covered.
We pretty much hit it all. Yeah.
You think the Rodenbach Caractère is going to make it in the market?
God, I hope so. Because a Rodenbach itself is a very prestigious brewery. And for those that really love the extraordinarily sour, tart beers, that's like pretty much one of the golden standards. I think this one is very approachable. I hope they continue to make something like this because what a great combination of fruits in this. I wouldn't have thought...
I would never put cranberry in it.
Right.
Yeah.
With cherries? I mean, come on. A cranberry itself is so...
Tart bomb.
Yeah, exactly. That it almost can lend itself to a bad vinegary taste as opposed to that vinegar taste that we love about some of those Rodenbach beers.
Yeah.
So, me personally, I'm going to get another bottle of this because I really like the flavor. I really, really do. And, granted, this is like a sipping beer, but, not something that you're going to chug down. But it's a beautiful beer. It really is.
Yeah. I'd like to know what if maybe they played with the proportions of the 3 fruits. Maybe it was more raspberry and then cherry and then just a little bit of cranberry to add some character.
But
it kind of struck me as more cranberry.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I tasted a lot of cranberry in it. And I was like,
flavor,
wow,
though.
this is cool. It's certainly unexpected and not something that you would see every day, but it's done really well.
Well, I just took another taste of the raspberry Provincial, so we're going to wrap this show up.
So we can empty the bottle.
That's for sure.
That's right.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for today. Thanks to all of our listeners here at Sips, Suds, and Smokes. You can catch all of our episodes online on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, PRX, Uncle John's Basement, and Spreaker, our native media host. Our terrestrial radio stations are always expanding, and they're always looking for love.
Or not.
Definitely, we appreciate all the contact you have with our terrestrial radio station. We love to hear from you. We really do. And you can reach out to us online anytime at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com is our email. Dave has his own fan mail, Dave the Lover. His email address is leavethecorkin@sipsudsandsmokes.com.
Hit me up.
Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter every single day. At Sips, Suds, and Smokes is our handle on Twitter. Our Facebook page is definitely buzzing with lots of news. Listen, do us a favor. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Take the time to rate this episode online. That really is a big help to us, and we get to see your feedback as well. I definitely want to thank my lovers here at the table. Good old gal, Julieanna. Thank you for being here.
Love is definitely in the air today. Everyone out there, love the one you're with, and have a great Valentine's Day.
Dave, thanks for joining us.
Make love, not war. And if you can't make love, drink a beer.
Well, thanks for joining us once again. This is good old boy Mike asking you to come back and join us and ask you to keep on sipping.
Love won't hurt anymore. It's an open smile on a friendly shore. It's love. Welcome aboard, it's
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.